Well, let's go to the kind of the lesson itself, and I'll just ask my debrief questions. Um,
Okay.
what do you think went well? Let's start with that.
I think that the acting out the words, that kind of turned into a very pleasant surprise. And it actually got a lot of them to turn their cameras on. Some of
Mhm.
the kids who usually do not raise their hand or do not speak up, they were they got into it. And of course the cameras went back off afterwards, but like for that
That was
moment,
so cute.
it felt great that they were really into it.
Hmm.
So a new week of words, a new story. So I'm trying to do something similar because they had fun with it. I had fun with it too.
Yeah, that was really nice. What else?
I think that it went pretty smoothly too. I had to edit out a lot, but I think overall, like everyone kind of had a good flow. They were in a good mood. You know, it was a no messaging, no internet problems, no I can't seize. So that helped facilitate the lesson.
Awesome.
I think they've it was nice to see that they're actually, you know, after 6 weeks, getting used to work for a minute, let's regroup and talk about the answers and why. Um,
Mhm.
so it also helps me. I think in the first couple of weeks, I was so burnt out from thinking I have to spend all 40 minutes, which is longer than our normal period. Usually they're 35, but all 40 minutes talking. But I need to think of more ways to let them take control or let them have kind of some downtime to process.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, even they wrote something down, they were like showing it out to the camera.
Yeah,
Even just that. I love it when students have whiteboards at home, that they can all show their answer at the same time. It's so great. So it's a great practice. Anything else before we shift to what could be improved?
no, I mean, I just felt like it went well. That was, I remember leaving that lesson and being like, great, because usually I
Yeah.
do that reading comp first period every day.
Mhm.
So they're used to it, I'm used to it, and some days it goes great, some days there are some bumps.
Yeah,
But,
that's
but yeah.
natural, normal. So what do you think could have been improved? We talked about that one activity, the sequencing activity already, so we don't need to dive into that again.
Yeah, I think I need to be more cognizant of time. I know there was a couple times that I said, okay, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, but then when I was editing it, I noticed that it was either much longer or much shorter.
Mm,
Um, and some of that is just because maybe a kid had a question or they didn't understand what they're doing or they wanted to give the answer right away. So I felt the pressure to have to, okay, we got to move on. Um, so I think I need to have just my timer in front of me too. So I know that I'm not going too fast, going too slow, and actually giving them 2 minutes to work on it.
yeah,
Because especially before that sorting activity, I put a timer up and then
it was
I
in
had
the
started
way.
it and then it was in the way. And so then I restarted it and then, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I like that you incorporated the timer though. At that point, I was going, yes, that is so awesome. And then was it Oliver, or I don't know which student it was, but he was so funny about asking you to move that. It's in the way. It's
Yeah.
adorable. I
And I
love your
could just
students
see
already. They are so cute.
he was just like this because there's like the mute all plus function they say. So like they
Mhm.
can't unmute unless I click unmute. Um,
Yeah.
but sometimes they can. I don't really get it. I think there's still some kinks with the program. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Anything else?
um, it just, like I said before, I need them to do more, move from teacher to student. But I'm still learning how to do that online. In class,
Yeah.
it's easy because they can talk with each other. You can turn their desks.
Yeah.
But here it's a little more difficult. There are no breakout rooms. There's no that function on the platform. So I've been trying to think of more ways in my classes because I also teach this reading comp, but math and geography, like a standard, what is it, MLL textbook, and a like a phonics class. So all of those I teach, and I've been really trying to find something online that they can do, like a little click and point game that just talks about angles. So I can just say, work on this for a couple minutes. Let me know like how it is. So it's not always me talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is
That
my
is
goal for the next
a
couple.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find that a challenge when I'm teaching VCs. How can I be more learner centered?
Yeah.
It's not easy. So I'm going to shift to some just one questions. So when you were thinking about designing this lesson and creating this lesson plan, in what ways did you think about your learners and their developmental age to design this lesson?
I think when I'm thinking about designing this lesson, especially, I think there's this middle line that I try to lesson plan for, because there's a big diverse class. In my class alone, I have a kid who cannot read 3-letter words, and I have a student who has read all 8 Harry Potter books in English in the same class. So it's hard to make it not too hard and not too easy. So this is kind of what I would consider a middle ground. Finish the activities. This book that we're using is actually a grade 2 book. So we found that a lot of the reading comp materials work best for the ELL learners that if it's a grade down, just with vocabulary development and overall like length of passages. Because even the 3rd grade book, it's like 4 pages of reading and then reading comp. So this one is mostly 1 or 2 pages, which is more than what we did last year, which was just like a little paragraph reading comp.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. These are 3rd graders?
These are 3rd graders, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. That is a huge range to try and plan for and consider. And what is it, the same stories in 3rd grade, or is it completely different stories too?
It's completely different stories. The sad thing is that we had this program that we started this year at school that delivers physical books every week, and the kids take a placement test, and then based on that, that's what shows up in their choosing in their library. So I could have the kids do a reading exercise about story, title, author, plot, characters, et cetera, and each kid had their own book that was catered to them. So we had some kids reading the Piggy and Gerald, and some kids reading the Who Would Win kind of books, like on a different spectrum, but they could all do the same lesson. But now we don't have that because there is no delivery.
Yeah.
Right now in quarantine.
Yeah.
And it worked great when it was at school, but not here. So I did actually dig through some places last in my laptop, and I found a workbook that has differentiated stories on the same thing. So I kind of want to try that out in lieu of this kind of reading comp passage and see if that makes a difference. So like the one I saw was like toucans, 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 beginning, intermediate, and advanced. But it's
Awesome.
hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just kind of decomposing
Yeah.
the standard. And I feel like, you know, meeting that huge range of cognitive and linguistic needs is a challenge, and finding kind of that happy medium is what you can do. And I wonder too that, you know, if after class for those that need more advanced, you know, sending them, you know, some sort of a resource if you want to learn more, and then those that are low,
Mhm.
you know, if you want to practice more, you know, so sending them an extra practice, or, you know, so that way the lesson itself aims at the middle, you know, and then you're providing those extensions and remediations for the top and the bottom. Might be a way to find that happy medium.
It's
Yeah, go ahead.
no, that's a great idea. It's of course always more work for the teacher, but it's not hard sometimes to find a book about Jane Goodall or something about chimpanzees that those other
Yeah.
kids can latch onto.
Yeah.
Um,
And I always figure once I have it, I never need to find it again. You know, like I'm building
I
my toolkit, and I'm
I
thankful for
totally
that.
agree with you. That's what I tell myself as you're
You know,
working
I keep
hours and
lying to
hours.
myself too. I get it.
Yeah.
I love that you know, you met their physical needs by having them act out the words, and that you know, wanted to see their motions, you know, that was great, and can keep doing that, and maybe even build some norms around that okay, well, everybody all at once now, show me what it is, and then have them do it, you know, and so that
Yeah.
everybody's doing it, and you can only just encourage those ones to turn on their cameras and get involved physically, because this age group, the more you can get their bodies involved, the better, in that. And I think for social emotional, when I unpack this standard, you are very warm with your students and encouraging, and just your tone is soothing and kind and all that. But I'm wondering how you can, because the ultimately to get to outstanding, and in clinicals we're shooting for proficient, we're going to visit outstanding. So I want to visit outstanding. Just think about what that might look like to have your students making social and emotional connections with one another through the learning. And
Mm.
even if it's, you know, using kind of some fun strategies like calling on Oliver, and if Oliver doesn't know, it's Oliver's chance to call on somebody else, you know, or doing what's called bridging. So when one student gives part of the answer, then, you know, all right, Susan, how can you add on to what so and so said? And then teach them to say, thank you so and so for sharing that and getting us started, and really teaching them those bridging manners of how to and to add yes and teaching them, and just at the very beginning, teach them the yes and teach them how to yes and with one another, because there's never one final, right? Everybody has lots of thoughts going through their minds, and everybody can do a yes and. That would be a fun little kind of trick to teach them how to do a yes and,
Okay.
you know, something that gets them more connecting with one another around the learning. Does that make sense? That would be
Absolutely.
kind of one thing. Yeah, one thing that would be cool. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of my questions, the end of my, I'm not going to yammer anymore and talk your ear off. I will kind of clean up my feedback now that I have more information around kind of what was happening, and send you my feedback with some resources to everything that we just talked about. Anytime I give suggestions, I give you a resource too, because I don't think it's fair to put something on you without helping you get there. So I'm going to grab some resources from my toolkit, and then I'll send it your way.